Make up mind. Fight.
Hey there! So, y'all really seemed to like that video I made about the worst Mario games on every Nintendo console. I had a good feeling that the video would do decently well, but the response has been so incredibly positive to what's objectively a pretty negative video that I really can't help but want to sincerely thank y'all. So, thank you, it really means a lot. That said, once you talk about the worst of something, the only natural follow-up is to do the same thing for the best of something. So in this video, I want to follow my previous discussion by naming my choices for the best Mario game on each Nintendo console. This topic is surprisingly much harder to nail down than the worst games one, since that one had just a bit more objectivity to it. Like, there's not many straight up bad Mario games, so it's not too tricky to figure out that Mario's early years fun with numbers is probably worse than Super Mario World on SNES, for example. But for the best Mario games, there's a lot more preference and wiggle room involved, so I want to remind y'all that this is ultimately just all my perspective and that I welcome yours in the comments. Only other rules to note here is that this is a Mario discussion, so no Donkey Kong, Yoshi, Wario, Princess Peach, or Luigi games. That we're only discussing core Nintendo consoles and handhelds from the NES to the Switch, and not stuff like the goddamn Barcode Battler 2, and that for this video specifically, I'm leaving out ports, remakes, and re-releases. I figure that'll make things just a bit more interesting. Aside from that, every Mario game, from mainline platformers to the plethora of spin-offs, are up for grabs. All that said, let's prop up a funny Italian. So, the first problem I had to confront when making this video was drawing a line in the sand between amazing games and iconic or important if aged games. Obviously, the Mario series contains a clean mix of all three. When I was trying to decide on my picks for the best of the best on each console, I had to make a lot of concessions in choosing ones that I genuinely feel are good and fun to play even today, over ones that are aged but important to the overall landscape of video game and pop culture history. For example, I don't think anyone will argue that Super Mario Bros. 1 for the NES is one of the most important, iconic, and ubiquitous video games of all time. That said, when playing it in 2020 whatever for the first time, it most definitely shows its age, with some very stiff controls and the lack of an ability to walk backwards. It's still very good and surprisingly playable, just not too glamorous by today's standards. And I know for sure that I'm not giving this spot to the Lost Levels or the still good but reskinned Japanese TV licensed game. Luckily, the NES does have a Mario game that slides comfortably into the categories of both fun to play and iconic, with my one and only Super Mario Bros. 3. This, alongside Punch-Out, are my go-to counterpoints whenever you see some schmuck try and argue that there are no good games on the NES. Owing to some incredibly sharp and forward-thinking design, Super Mario Bros. 3 hasn't aged a day since it was first released nearly 40 years ago. Its controls are buttery smooth and surprisingly modern, its level themes and ideas are intensely creative, and it's all around filled to burst with flourishes and concepts that make it just as much of a joy to play now as when it was first released. There are concepts in this game that continue to be iterated on not just in the Mario series, but in the landscape of gaming as a whole even today. The fact that a game released in 1988 can still be considered to some people a contender for the best 2D Mario game is an absolute miracle of design. If you somehow still haven't played it, I'd strongly recommend it. Super Mario Bros. 3 is a technical and creative marvel for the NES, and is still just as much of a marvel today. The Game Boy, or our first handheld for this video, is thankfully a much less wordy pick than the NES. It's crystal clear to pretty much anyone with eyes and thumbs that the best Mario game on this fun little brick is Super Mario Land 2: The 6 Golden Coins. This game is low-key super impressive. The technical, graphical, and gameplay leap between this and the original Mario Land, also on Game Boy, is absolutely staggering. This is the kind of upgrade that typically asks for a whole new console generation before releasing, yet Nintendo R&D 1 was able to deliver a game as smooth and surprisingly enjoyable as this on the same brick that it released only 3 years prior, with just some experience and familiarity with the hardware. Plus, this game introduced Wario, which is indisputably a huge contribution to gaming as a whole. This game features 6 very unique world themes to the Mario series even today, ranging from a Halloween world to a space world to a Mario world. No, that's next. It might not be the most challenging or especially long, and it is undeniably on the floaty side, but not unlike Mario 3, Super Mario Land 2 is a shockingly solid and enduring handheld Mario adventure that can easily sneak up on you with just how fun and surprisingly well-aged it is. Again, an obvious pick. I promise these will slow down once you make it to around the 2000s or so. But yeah, the best Mario game on SNES is most definitely Super Mario World. This one gave me quite a bit of pause, as I quite like Mario RPG, but in the end, I can't argue with the enduring joy that Super Mario World brings me. Whenever I hear someone say that graphics are the most important thing in gaming, or that retro games are all poorly aged or bad, this is where my mind immediately jumps to. A pixel-perfect evolution of the steadily improving classic Mario formula that pretty much acts as the perfect capper to the sprite-based era of 2D Mario games. Every small improvement that was made across the NES era just burst into this crescendo of brilliant, thoughtful, and fun-first game design. A game loaded with secrets, hidden paths to discover, virtually flawless controls and mechanics, and one of the most fun to explore and uncover maps in Mario history. The name on this thing was not wrong. This game's setting is indeed a world waiting to be uncovered by the player. And yeah, I'm not huge on the Forest of Illusion, and some of the special levels are a bit annoying, but to even try arguing that this game is at all overrated or overpraised is fighting a losing battle. Just say you were born after 2005, man. This game is as close to perfection as 2D Mario would get right up until the release of Mario Wonder, and it's crazy to me that they managed to pull this off in only their 4th home console outing. Okay, so the Virtual Boy. This one is tricky because this quote-unquote console has no good Mario games. Its best game in general is probably VB Wario Land, but for our purposes, we've got to pick between being shot or stabbed for this discussion. And this might sound a little weird considering my previous video, but I find the best and worst Mario game on Virtual Boy to be Mario's Tennis. Because really, what the hell even is Mario Clash? Now, hear me out. I do think that Mario Tennis is the worst Mario game on Virtual Boy in terms of content, creativity, and overall appeal. It is just a bare-bones, no-frills tennis simulator with absolutely no flourishes or hooks. That said, it's also easily the most playable Mario game on Virtual Boy. Despite being incredibly boring, it also works, has surprisingly solid game feel for the console, and its no-frills approach leads to it being much more accessible and approachable than Mario Clash. I'm still more intrigued and enticed by the prospect of playing Mario Clash due to it being an actual approximation of a video game, but I cannot deny that Mario Tennis, despite how boring and unintriguing it is objectively the more playable of the two games. I don't know, this choice is being heavily influenced by this comment I got when I specifically asked for an impassioned defense of Mario's Tennis, and I ultimately feel weird naming either of these games to be the best of anything, so again, please weigh in the comments. So, the N64. This console was tricky, because if you know anything about me beyond this guy has a weird voice,
Shut up! Your voice annoys me.
it's probably that the original Paper Mario is my favorite game of all time. I love Paper Mario. This game is in my goddamn DNA, and I've played through it more times than I can reasonably count. I was so tempted to just throw up two proud middle fingers and name it as the best Mario game on N64, just out of my biased love for it, and while I do think that there's a reasonable case to be made for it being the best aged Mario game on N64, realistically, I know I gotta give this choice to Super Mario 64. Now, I know Mario 64 definitely has issues and certainly does show its age today. I've seen and heard from quite a few people who've had a pretty miserable time trying to visit this game for the first time in the 2020s. Its controls are clunky, its missions can be obtuse and hard to figure out, and it all around does show its age as the first ever fully 3D Mario game. That said, the fact that there's a decent number of people in existence who are more intimately familiar with this game and its mechanics than I am with my own human body says a lot about Mario 64's staying power. No other video game has a footprint on or offline like Super Mario 64's. Even if you don't agree that it was revolutionary for 3D games, as I know that games like Jumping Flash and Quake predate it, even though it absolutely was, Mario 64 is indisputably one of the most important and impactful video games of the 1990s. Parts of this game have embedded themselves not only in gaming history, but pop culture history as a whole. And, if I may, as someone who 100% 100%ed this game themselves for the first time in 2022, I still find it to be damn fun to play around and explore in if you can meet it on its level. Exploring its hub world, finding secrets, and navigating its levels is still very enjoyable if you're able to approach it with the understanding that this was one of the first ever fully 3D video games. There is a charm and a rawness to this game that's not present anywhere else in the Mario series. I won't argue that every single person will mess with Mario 64 in the modern day, and my heart still well and truly belongs to Paper Mario, but it would be a fool's errand to pretend that anything else deserves the title of best Mario game for N64. The Game Boy Color is the turning point for this video, because starting here, we're actually going to stop seeing the big mainline Mario platformer as the best game on each respective system for a few minutes. For instance, the Game Boy Color's quote-unquote mainline Mario platformer is Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, a port of the original NES game with some nice updates and very fun side modes, yet also a level of screen crunch that makes it virtually unplayable. No, for the Game Boy Color, we'll be picking our first Mario spin-off for this video, and while it may sound a bit strange, my choice is going to be Mario Tennis. If you haven't played the GBC version of Mario Tennis, you may be tilting your head a little bit here, as you probably wouldn't imagine this thing being too dissimilar from the Virtual Boy one. Probably just a watered-down, sprite-based version of the console game. But surprisingly, that's not the case, as this is actually a full-fledged tennis-themed RPG. It takes place on a campus for prospective tennis prodigies, and the player will spend their playthrough battling other characters through tennis matches to earn EXP, make new allies, and hone their skills. It was actually developed by Camelot, who, in addition to a ton of Mario sports games, also made the Shining Force series and would go on to create Golden Sun, so these people have RPGs in their blood and soul. What's worth noting is that actual Mario characters don't show up until the very end of this thing, but aside from that, it's a surprisingly solid, if simple, sports-themed RPG that's got just a bit more depth than you'd probably expect going in. Camelot would go on to make a lot more of these, so it was clearly a winning formula. Also, totally unrelated, but the two player characters in this game are named Nina and Alex, which is crazy to me because I had two neighbors with those exact same names as a kid who were truly awful people. Thanks to Mario Tennis for reminding me of that. The Game Boy Advance is in an interesting position for this list, as it actually didn't receive a single original traditional Mario platformer for its entire run as a console. It did receive ports of a few classic Mario games, denoted by these perplexing and somewhat frightening titles, but otherwise, this plucky little handheld was a spin-off machine. Luckily, the winner is clear, even with such an odd lineup, because the best Mario game on GBA is easily Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. Superstar Saga is such a fun, stylish, and distinct Mario adventure. Its presentation, from its sprite work to its music, are absolutely immaculate and iconic for GBA, and it holds up shockingly well for being the first game in the Mario & Luigi series. Its unique two-button control scheme can take some getting used to, but once you've adjusted, learning things like timed hits and the proper inputs for Bros attacks never stops being fun or satisfying, and the overall unique approach to turn-based combat makes this game a clear standout within the entire Mario RPG pantheon. It's also just kind of hilarious. Like, this game introduces a ton of all-time fan-favorite Mario characters, from Prince Peasley to perennial golden child Fawful, and its unique characterizations for staple characters like Luigi and Bowser make it incredibly memorable for longtime Mario fans. Also, its competition for GBA is like Mario Party Advanced, Mario Pinball Land, and the original Mario vs. Donkey Kong, so it's not much of a fight. Okay, that's not entirely fair. I do like Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Regardless, Superstar Saga is all around a game that's just as funny and stylish now as it was in the early 2000s. For the inaugural entry in a new Mario RPG spin-off series, this game can rest comfortably as one of the best that the Mario & Luigi series has to offer. But, to quote myself, quoting Regular Pat, quoting Zexion in Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days, surely you must have known that this was going to happen. The GameCube, despite having an absolutely all-star lineup of Mario games, has probably the single clearest choice for this entire video. And I say that with full knowledge of stuff like Mario World and Mario 64. I love Super Mario Sunshine, Mario Power Tennis, and the GameCube Mario Parties as much as the next guy, but it'd be foolish of me to name anything other than Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door as the best Mario game for GameCube. This game is simply built different, an incredibly unique Mario adventure that isn't afraid at all to take risks or tackle themes and ideas that Nintendo typically buckles at, featuring a brilliant evolution of Paper Mario 64's combat and badge systems, some of the most likable and nuanced characters in the entire Mario series, and a story that legitimately goes places. TTYD is a game that Nintendo would never even consider making fresh anytime but the GameCube era. The setting of Rogueport, a derelict, crime-ridden hellscape, perfectly sets the stage for one of the most raw and honest Mario games ever made, and this is a game that never shies away from confronting ideas that are typically out of this famously sanitized series scope. Its gameplay is also brilliant, flawlessly iterating on its predecessor's mechanics in ways that make building and leveling up your Mario for whatever challenge faces you a joy no matter how you do it. I love Paper Mario 64, but there's a reason that you've never heard me try and rebuff anyone's love for this game. Its only real problems are some backtracking heavy sections and a pretty significant difficulty spike in the endgame, but aside from that, this is a clear contender for not only the best Mario game on GameCube, but an arguable choice for the best Mario RPG ever made. This game is worth the hype. It is not overrated or overpraised in any way, shape, or form, and I for one am happy that its stellar Switch remake exists to allow a new generation of players to experience the magic of the Thousand Year Door. But you want to know why I said TTYD was an arguable choice for the best Mario RPG ever made? It's because of Bowser's goddamn inside story, that's why. Yeah, I think this is the best Mario game on DS, and I say that with full knowledge of New Super Mario Bros., Mario 64, and Mario Kart DS. I love all of those games a ton, they're all stellar, but gun to my head, I cannot deny the enduring quality of Bowser's inside story. Take everything I said about TTYD, but copy-paste it for Bowser this time instead, trading some of the emotional depth and nuance for some of the most consistently funny and charming writing in any Mario game ever. Alpha Dream was firing on all cylinders here, and if this game's sales were anything to go by, then it clearly paid off. Taking a typical Mario and Luigi adventure, but dividing its focus between the brothers and famous goofball asshole Bowser for some of the most unique and engaging battles in any Mario RPG ever was an inspired choice, and Alpha Dream clearly knew what they were cooking when they decided to make this a Bowser-focused game. I realize that being an RPG, this game is kind of intrinsically niche compared to the accessibility of a platformer or a kart racer, but in terms of value for your buck, there is not a Mario game on DS that delivers as consistently for its entire run as Bowser's inside story. It doesn't have the baggage of being followed up by a ton of derivative sequels, being a shaky remake that's not well suited to the DS, or having later entries in its series that eclipse it. Bowser's inside story is just a solid beginning to end RPG experience that fully capitalizes on the hardware it's on. This is, to this day, still the best Mario and Luigi game, and had it not been for TTYD, it'd probably be the objective best Mario RPG. Also, the music was composed by Yoko Shimomura, and if you know anything about her body of work, then you'll know that's an immediate point in its favor. The Wii is another console that gave me quite a bit of pause for this video. Now, make no mistake, the ultimate choice was very clear, but when I remembered that things like Super Paper Mario and Mario Kart Wii existed, I definitely hesitated a bit. That said, the game we gotta go with is crystal clear, and it's Super Mario Galaxy. I know that there will be some Galaxy 2 soldiers in the comments, and while that game is very, very good, it really can't go overstated just how much of an occasion Mario Galaxy 1 was. The Mario series is sometimes criticized for not quote-unquote evolving, or for every game in the series being the same as what came before it, but Super Mario Galaxy was a true blue step forward for both the Mario series and Nintendo as a whole when it first released. This game is grand, larger than life, and a true unembellished event in the Super Mario series, featuring the highest stakes version of the Bowser Kidnaps Peach plot ever, a booming, grandiose orchestral soundtrack, and some of the objective best visuals on the Wii as a console. Mario Galaxy is a beautiful, striking showcase of Nintendo at their most daring and creative. The deep space setting combined with the gravity-based platforming and the sky-high production value make this game feel like a once-in-a-lifetime event, something that demanded the attention of everyone who owned or intended to own a Wii in 2007. So pretty much everyone. It's still a spectacle all these years later, and is still in hot contention for the best overall 3D Mario game. Its platforming is inventive and stellar, and it seems like it never runs out of fun ideas or clever situations to put the player in. I personally have very fond memories memories of my mom and dad bringing out our family's new Wii, a Wii Remote, and a copy of this game as our last surprise presents for Christmas of 2007, giving one each to me, my brother, and my sister, and having us open them all at once. They weathered the 2007 holiday shopping season so that we could experience Mario Galaxy as soon as possible, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. Super Mario Galaxy is an all-timer and will always be a shining example of Nintendo at their strongest. I think you could truly make a legitimate case for this being the best game in this entire video. So, funny story here. On my previous video, I got a comment or two criticizing me for quote-unquote blindly making fun of the Wii U and 3DS, because I said that these consoles had generally lackluster lineups of Mario games. And say what you want about the Wii U, but I promise you that I love the 3DS. This thing is like a contender for my top 5 favorite video game systems I've ever owned. I've had like 5 of the damn things. But if we're being as honest and objective as possible, the 3DS, for everything it excelled at, did have a lot of mediocre Mario games. Not bottom of the barrel garbage terrible stuff, just games that were somewhat below the typical bar for quality of this series. Look, all I'm saying is, something's up when your handheld's Mario highlights are Super Mario 3D Land and Mario and Luigi Dream Team. I like these games a lot, but we can't pretend they're nearly as stellar or genre defining as what came before or after them. All that said, one game I will decisively praise in the 3DS's Mario catalog is Mario Kart 7. This game kind of has a reputation for being antiquated today, what with Mario Kart 8 kind of taking its lunch and running, but to its credit, Mario Kart 7 still has a lot of modern day merit in my opinion. It's a certified looker for the 3DS, and I genuinely feel that some of its tracks look better than their Switch Booster Course Pass remakes. Additionally, a lot of this game's newly introduced tracks are absolutely stellar and some of the series' best, with stuff like the Woohoo Island courses, Wario Shipyard, Neo Bowser City, and Melody Motorway being clear standouts. The true winner, however, is 3DS Rainbow Road, a possible contender for the single best course in the entire Mario Kart series, and one that would have earned this game its spot on this list on its own merits, even if the 3DS's competition wasn't severely lacking. Plus, before Nintendo shut down 3DS Online, this game was really fun to play with randoms, especially in battle mode, right up until the end of the service's life. While it definitely is kind of hard to justify going back to this game, I feel that when you actually do, you'll find a surprisingly fun and enduring Mario Kart game that just has a bit more going on than people give it credit for. Also, it, alongside a price drop, are like the things that allowed the 3DS to succeed, so it's kind of an unsung hero in Nintendo history. All in all, a good time. The Wii U is another console that I was criticized for criticizing in my previous video, but unlike the 3DS, I have much less charitable memories of this one. And I can say that. I've had my Wii U since 2013. I was in the trenches for this console's life. While it certainly did have charm and novelty with stuff like Miiverse, you also have to remember what it was actually like to be an owner of this console during its life. Months without major game releases or communication from Nintendo, and when stuff was coming out, it was stuff like Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash. All I'm gonna say is, don't sit there and posture about how underrated the Wii U was and how much you miss it when it's statistically unlikely that you owned it during its life. That said, I do think that a few of the Mario games released on this little box were pretty solid. Mario Maker 1 was really fun, and I really like 3D World, even if I think that its Switch port kind of crushes the original, and for as uninspired as they were, New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Luigi U were both good time wasters. But this is another console where I've got to give first place to its flagship release, Mario Kart 8. To me, Mario Kart 8 was the singular Mario game released early in the Wii U's life that really showcased that it was, in fact, a next-generation system. Talk about an evolution of Mario Kart. Everything about this game, from its beautiful visuals to its stellar soundtrack, to the additions and fine-tunings of mechanics like zero gravity, gliding, and underwater driving, this game was just bigger and better than every Mario Kart that released before it. Its roster was a bit lacking, and its battle mode was Wii U battle mode, but with the addition of some DLC and post-launch support, a lot of these issues were ironed out, except the battle mode. Plus, several of its courses were really great, with stuff like Dolphin Shoals, Electrodrome, Sunshine Airport, and Mount Wario. There's a reason that all it took for this thing to become the 5th best-selling video game of all time was for it to release on a console that people actually owned. Even without 8 Deluxe's flourishes, base Mario Kart 8 was still an intensely fun time, and one of few games that really felt as though it was pushing and legitimizing the Wii U when it needed it. People say Mario Kart isn't a system seller, but
See, Joe, the numbers don't lie.
And as our final stop for this little Mario adventure, we've got the Nintendo Switch. As I touched on in my previous video, this console has a lot of Mario games, and most of them are really good in my opinion. We've got 13 completely original games and sequels, ballooning to 22 if we count ports, remakes, and re-releases. Even with a number as big as that though, we only have 2 real true contenders here. Full disclosure, it was very difficult to make up my mind between these 2 games, so I want to call on you, the comments, to help me weigh in on the ultimate choice for this video. On one hand, we have Super Mario Odyssey, a well-beloved, innovative, stylish, mechanically rich, and ambitious 3D Mario playground that gave the Switch just the kick in the pants it needed to really succeed early on. And on the other hand, we have the much more recent Super Mario Bros. Wonder, a much smaller scale, yet significantly more polished, creative, and intensely spellbinding game that's consistently throwing new, fun, and jaw-dropping surprises at the player. These games exist as a yin and yang. Mario Odyssey is the bigger, grander, yet much less focused 3D playground, whereas Mario Odyssey is the more concise, polished, and laser-focused, yet smaller scale 2D romp that knows exactly what it wants to be. I legitimately can't decide between these 2 objectively. They fill such different niches and occupy such different spaces in my brain, so I'd love it if y'all could help me decide. As to not cop out and provide my personal answer, I think that my choice right now would be Mario Wonder, as it's the game I'm more apt to replay and attempt to 100%, but I'm more than willing to change my mind if y'all can make a good case for Odyssey. Either way, these 2 games are both amazing, some of the Mario series' absolute best, and act as great cappers to this little Mario side mission we've gone on for the past few weeks. And there we have it. I wouldn't have made this video without the incredible support on the first one, so I want to thank y'all sincerely for all of that. I definitely have plans for a lot more Mario and Nintendo related content in the pipeline, so if y'all enjoyed, throwing a sub or a like would really be appreciated. I normally don't ask for stuff like that, but considering that these videos have been doing well and that I will be making more videos like them, I figured it'd be better now than never. Either way, thanks, hope y'all had a fantastic day before, during, and after watching, and I'll catch y'all later. Cheers!